What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Cosplay Chris, and today we are looking back on Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Yesterday marked 13 years since the release of a film that changed the genre of comic book films forever. So in this video, I'm just going to do a recap on my experience, me being a fan as Batman, right up to the lead up of the release of The Dark Knight and how it's lived on 13 years later and what it means to me. Now I was inspired to do this because recently Chris Stuckman did a similar video on The Sandlot, and I love that. It's very personal, it's a love letter to him, and it's a love letter to the way he grew up with that film and what it means to him, and I want to do the same with The Dark Knight because it's been 13 years and holy shit, time flies by.
Now before we get on with the rest of the video, I figured you guys would get a kick out of this. This is the first Blu-ray I ever bought, The Dark Knight. And inside I kept the original movie ticket from my first viewing of the film, July 17th, 2008 at 3:10 p.m. in the afternoon, with a scribbled out phone number. So yeah, it was at Greater Union Cinemas, which is just down the road from me, about 5 minutes down the road from where I am now, at my local Westfield. Kept that, as well as the original receipt. I bought this baby from JB Hi-Fi in Canberra in the ACT, and it cost me $28.99. Back then for a Blu-ray, that was a shitload of money, Geeks and Geekettes. But I figured you guys would get a nice little kick out of that.
So to really tell you guys about my full experience about The Dark Knight, we got to go back to the beginning. Now I know what you're thinking, isn't the beginning the Keaton films? But you got to keep in mind, I was born in 1988. The first Tim Burton Batman came out in 1989. I was 1 year old. Then Returns came out in 92. I was 4 years old, so I had no idea what the hell was going on at the time. So the pivotal point of me being a child in the 90s was the Schumacher Batman films, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. When I first saw these films, I thought nothing else could ever top this. I thought these were the top tier of Batman films. Looking back on it now, I may have been a little bit wrong, but regardless of that, they still hold a place in my heart, and they always will. Hence why I bought myself a screen-used Robin suit from Batman and Robin. So after Batman and Robin, we all thought the franchise was pretty much dead and buried, but Christopher Nolan came along in 2005 and gave us Batman Begins and essentially gave CPR to the franchise. And this fresh-faced fucker first saw the film and absolutely fell in love with Christopher Nolan's Batman world that he had created from the ground up in terms of the origin story and a brand new fresh take on The Dark Knight. Not to mention that Christian Bale was pivotal in my health journey. I was always a heavyset kid when I was younger, and then seeing Bale's transformation from the machinist to Bruce Wayne and how jacked and healthy and strong he looked inspired me in terms of learning to put on muscle mass, stay healthy. So Batman Begins comes out in 2005. I am 17 years old. I'm in year 11 in high school. So another year left and then I'm graduated, done and dusted. And I was obsessed with the film. It was such a big deal because everyone thought this was gonna tank again after the failure that was Batman and Robin. Critically, the film did amazing. Financially, not exactly ideal for Warner Brothers, but it was a good start for what they wanted in terms of rebuilding the franchise. So Batman Begins comes out, goes, and then we get wind that Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan Nolan are working on a script for a sequel, and then a couple of months later they released the title, The Dark Knight. And I still remember one of my good friends, Luke, messaging me at the time. I was working at a cat and dog pound. I just finished. Luke messaged me, he goes, "They just released the title, it's called The Dark Knight." And I was like, that's brilliant, that sounds so good. I like the fact that they didn't throw the word Batman in there. It's just The Dark Knight. I'm like, that's badass. Like, this film is just so confident with how it's gonna be. So let's talk about the very first teaser trailer that was released online and in cinemas. We saw no faces, no nothing. It is just the Bat logo breaking apart with an exchange between Bruce and Alfred, and then at the end we hear a little snippet of Heath Ledger's Joker. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I heard Heath's voice as the Joker, I'm like, he sounds like House. Like, he sounds like Dr. House.
I'm a man of my word.
How wrong I was. So segueing from that, let's talk about the casting of Heath Ledger as the Joker. When that was first announced, I'm not gonna say I wasn't on board. I was just kind of like, really? Heath Ledger? Like, you know, he's heartthrob, good-looking young man. I can't see him as the clown prince of crime. But then the more I thought about it, and like, well, he's gonna be covered in makeup. He's established himself as quite a versatile actor. He wants to break away from the whole teen heartthrob ideal, but I've got faith in him.
Now also bear in mind, upon Heath's casting as the Joker, the internet was not kind, as you can see right here.
Heath Ledger has the charisma of a lettuce leaf. One word, gay. Yeah, great, joke back mountain. You've got to be kidding me. Heath Ledger, a Joker? I don't think so. You're joking, right? That's not right. Heath Ledger? Well, I trust Nolan, but I can't possibly fathom Ledger as a Joker.
So after that teaser trailer came out, I was hyped for it, and then we get the first official trailer, and then this shot happens. It scared the shit out of me. I'd never seen anything like this before. Given that we had the teaser shot of Heath in the makeup, and mind you, that was a test makeup, it wasn't the final makeup, but then seeing this shot, the way it was lit, the way the makeup is running, and he's just subtle licking of the lips was disgustingly terrifying. So I had the teaser trailer, the first official trailer, and the final trailer on my iPod Nano at the time, where you could play videos on it. I remember I would hook it up to the AUX cable of my car and just listen to the audio on all three trailers over and over in my car through the speakers. I was just obsessed. I knew the trailers back to front. I'd say all the lines, all Bruce's lines, all Heath's lines, hell, even Maggie Gyllenhaal's lines. I was just so obsessed and so hyped. Speaking of hype, let's talk about the superhero hype forums. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys know about the superhero hype forum. It's your go-to for superhero news, updates, photos, stuff like that. You've got all the threads, all the forums, Marvel, DC, miscellaneous stuff like that. And that was the mecca in terms of keeping up to date with the Dark Knight, set photos, set leaks, stuff like that. That forum is actually where I first saw the first official image of Bale in the Dark Knight suit. When I first saw the Batman Begins suit, I thought, man, that is sick. How the hell can you improve upon that? Because I did catch wind that they were gonna upgrade his suit for the Dark Knight. I figured, how do you go from that to something even better? And then I see this image of Bale on top of a cop car in this armor-plated suit, and I thought, okay, they did it. they upped the ante again. So after all the hype on the superhero hype forums, the film is finally released. And like you saw with that movie ticket, I went and saw it with one of my friends in the afternoon at the local Westfield. And as soon as Heath slammed that guy's face into the pencil, I was so on board. I was on board from day one, having not even seen the film. But just seeing that quick hit of violence and just how different Heath's Joker was, the prologue, just the themes, the tones of the film, even at that point, I knew we were in for something special. And for those 2 odd hours, I was enthralled. I was escaped from what was going on at the time in my life. I had some things going on at the time, typical teenage things, just stupid bullshit, and watching The Dark Knight just pulled me out of that reality and into this world that Nolan had created and had improved upon from Batman Begins. So that was the first viewing. Left the cinema, jaw on the ground. My friend and I were just like giddy schoolgirls. We just couldn't stop giggling at how amazing that film was. A week later, I took my mum to see the film. Mum had not seen Batman Begins, so I gave a quick little cliff notes so she'd be up to speed, so she knew kind of what was going on from Batman Begins, just so she knew what was going on when she watched The Dark Knight. And Mum loved it. Mum thought it was absolutely brilliant. And years later, we watched The Dark Knight Rises together, and she also loved that. So she hasn't even seen Batman Begins. She's just seen The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. So at this point, I figured I better watch this damn thing in IMAX because it was revolutionary at the time. Some scenes were filmed with an IMAX camera, with dialogue and everything, which was kind of unheard of at the time because the IMAX cameras that they used at the time were so loud that most times out of 10 you had to go back and re-record your lines. And my mate who I saw it with the first time, we both went and saw it at IMAX, Darling Harbour here in Sydney, and that first opening shot of Gotham, or Chicago should I say, I got vertigo. It was crazy. That prologue scene in IMAX was beautiful. And honestly, not being biased, I think The Dark Knight has one of the best villain reveals ever in cinematic history. Prove me wrong. Stranger. I still get fucking chills, man. So that was my cinematic experience viewing the film, and looking back, it still holds up. It's not just a comic book movie, it's a crime drama. And the fact that you have a villain who doesn't care whether they live or die, has no care for their well-being, that is the most horrifying thing ever. That is what makes a good villain. He's testing Batman. Batman is mentally pushed to his limits, whereas in The Dark Knight Rises, he's physically pushed to his limits. But we get to see both ends of the spectrum. You want a classy cast, man? The Dark Knight has it, and that's what I love about Nolan. He assembles a crew of actors that are just brilliant and give their absolute A game. So if you guys want to see my review of The Dark Knight that I did several years ago, I will leave a link down below. It is cringy as fuck, but I'm pretty sure it gets the message out there.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
So as I'm starting to wrap up this video, and I obviously have touched on him quite a lot in this video, I want to just talk about Heath Ledger. Heath is one of the reasons why I wanted to get into acting. And I had been a fan of Heath before The Dark Knight. And on a personal level too, because my mum was fortunate enough to work with him in a little film called Two Hands, which was filmed here in Sydney. Heath was about 20 years old at the time. It's a crime drama. I actually highly recommend anyone who doesn't live in Australia to check it out. You get to see what the underworld is like here in Sydney, in King's Cross. Mum was an extra, but Mum got to have a quick chat with Heath and he was absolutely brilliant. Mum said he was severely shy, which he was known for being. And then when he stepped into the shoes of the Joker and I saw him on screen, I just knew that I wanted to do acting in any way, shape or form. And that's why I'm glad that I am where I am today. You know, I do acting on the side and I want to get more into it. It is a little bit hard though at the moment because of lockdown, but I'm auditioning and I just want to continue that because I love acting and it's because of Heath. Now there's always those rumors going around that the Joker consumed Heath and it's ultimately what led to his death. So if you guys go to a YouTube channel called Collider, they did a interview with Michael Jai White, who played Gamble in the film. And Mr. Jai White laid it all on the line. He was brutally honest about how his experience was working with Heath. And if you guys remember, I posted a video last year, a couple of years ago. I was fortunate enough to be in a film with Michael Jai White called The Outlaw Johnny Black, which is still yet to be released. It's currently in post-production. But I had about an hour one-on-one with Michael in between setting up scenes and takes and all that. And we got to have a good chat. He was lovely. He'd go from people to people on the set, just have a chat. And I kind of wanted to back up his theory. I wanted to get verification that, you know, he wasn't just playing it up for the Collider video. And I asked him, I go, is that what it was like working with Heath? And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, he was the most chillest young man ever. He was asking us for advice. And like he says in the Collider video, he goes, man, we're just a bunch of day players and you're asking us for advice about the pitch of your voice, your mannerisms, you know, how you should turn to each one of us like this and that. And I loved hearing that. It gave me goosebumps because, you know, this shy young man from Perth, Western Australia, went on to be one of up there with the greatest villains of all time in cinematic history. And I obviously understand that he's not everyone's Joker. People favor Nicholson, people favor Joaquin, hell, even people favor Leto. I like a bit of each, but ultimately at the end of the day, Heath is my Joker. And I'm not being biased because he's an Aussie. It makes me damn proud that he's an Aussie and he went on just to do something so memorable and so special. So Geeks and Geekettes, to wrap up what The Dark Knight means to me 13 years on, it honestly hasn't changed since day one. It's still one of my favorite films. You know, my top 4 films are Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dark Knight, Logan, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And Dark Knight will always be up there. It is a beautifully crafted comic book film. It is a beautifully crafted crime drama. What Chris Nolan, the cast, the crew, what everyone on that film did was change the way we look at comic book films. I don't think anything has ever really been topped in terms of that style, in terms of themes, visual representation. We obviously have our Avengers Endgames and Infinity Wars, but I don't think you really can compare the two because The Dark Knight is so gritty, pure, that it will just have that everlasting imprint in cinematic history. And you can see why it's one of the top rated films on IMDb. It's timeless. Everyone finds something in that film that they like. So guys, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. Again, yesterday marked 13 years since this film came out, and I just wanted to share my experience with it because it changed the way I look at film. It changed the way how I wanted to live my life. And where I am now is definitely because of The Dark Knight. It just changed the way that I wanted to get more into film, whether it be in front and behind the camera, with prop making, with acting. And one of the reasons is The Dark Knight. So guys, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. What does The Dark Knight mean to you? What was your experience when the film came out? Or if you are one of my younger viewers and were born after The Dark Knight came out and you've seen it recently, What did you think? Guys, wherever you're on the world, have yourselves an absolute cracker of a day. I hope you're well, hope you're happy, be merry, be silly, and until next time, geeks, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.